This video will show you how to put together this layered rainbow photo frame, which is an SVG file from Simply Crafty SVGs. So this takes a little explaining the file first. So this file has a couple options in it. So I call it the rainbow photo frame because initially this is how I designed it. So this will be the frame, and it's to fit a 4x6 photo. So one of the reasons I made this is I wanted a frame like this. I figured I didn't want to go out and buy them, but I don't want a frame for any 3D creations. I want to actually print out some of my photos. So I wanted photo frames, but I always wanted a rainbow frame, so that's why I went with this. Well, then I found out that you know, you could do a couple different things with it. You could use all these layers or use different colors. So these are the primary pieces that come with it. This is in the extra stuff folder, so that's extra stuff because I did a different kind of rainbow frame. So I'll talk about what's in the extra stuff folder really quick after this. So this is the bases. So there's 6 different layers here, and I'll talk about layering them, and I already put some foam tape on it, so you don't have to watch me painfully do that through the video. I have 2 of these. I don't know why, but this is the thing that goes on the back, the support, or the easel. You can call it the easel. So I'm going to put that aside. That's an extra one for another frame I have. And so we have that. So that's last. That's just so you can angle it up. I didn't set these up to hang, but you know, if you wanted to hang them, you could do that. These are the edges. So let me show you a finished one, an example. So here's one, and I was playing around with how much to put in between here, and that's the reason why I have this one. And actually I was trying to figure out how to make it so I could reuse it. So I have little Velcro things on the back. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to, on the next one, glue it in. And this is one of my test ones, so it's kind of been beat up a little bit, but that's what the finished frame looks like. And this is the thickness. So when you stack it up, it goes up to the top. And I didn't put vellum on any kind of acetate or anything. So I haven't placed this, obviously. It's in with Velcro strips right now. Which is a little bit much, by the way. If you want to do it like a temporary like this, I would put only two. It's a little bit too strong. But I want to be able to grab it. It's raised because it's just a little bit raised. So it's easier for me to pull it out. This one, so that's the default thickness I just showed you. Here's an extra. So if you're going to make something like this, which is in the extra stuff folder, when you unzip the file, and you don't want it as deep, so I only put on this one 3 layers. So I haven't glued it in yet, but you can see that's a 4x6 photo that fits in there. And I'll explain, there's some cheater lines in here to line it up, and then you could glue it on. Like I said, I have some foam tape, and you can see, so this is only a 1/4 inch deep, and the other one's a 1/2 inch deep. So the default one's a 1/2 inch. So I wanted to explain this file a little bit, but you can see how versatile, and you can make the frame different colors and all that stuff. So I'm going to put this together really quick, and then I'll explain to you all these. These are the frame pieces, and they have lines on them and everything, and I'll explain what those are. So let's do the extra one really quick. So the way you're going to glue this together, so forward through this if you're not going to use this one at all. I just want to get this one taken care of. So you can pop them up like that if you want to make it more 3D. I think this would be better flat. And just for the sake of time, let's see if I can get, I'm not going to use a ton of glue on this. So one of the reasons it took me so long, this is like a simple file, but it's really not, because I couldn't decide on how I wanted to go, if I wanted to make the pictures, photos, you know, so you could change them easily, and it's, anyway, so I have other files. So I'm just going to line that up in the lower portion. So you want to do this for every layer here. But anyways, this particular file, I would say that I would make it permanent. So I just wanted some photos around the house, so this is kind of how it started. And I had a recent loss of a dog as of this video, which, let's see, we're in July 2023. So anyways, I lost a dog a week ago. So I started working on this probably the week before my dog passed away. So anyways, so some of these will be replaced with family photos, but I really I wanted to demonstrate with a sample photo. So for this, we're just going to go ahead, you just go ahead and layer it. And just keep on lining it up. I just thought I might use this myself, honestly. I just haven't. I have a couple extra frames that I created that are like not the best, but they'll work. Like that white one I showed you earlier. So you just want to keep on layer them down here. And I was hoping to get this out in June, as it's more to celebrate Pride, LGBT, but my dog was not well, and so I was trying to spend as much time with her as possible, so it took a little downtime last few weeks to spend with her. So we'll get to the actual frame. So, and just to note, the frames are pretty similar, how they go together. They're just, one's just not as thick, that's all. And this is all American Crafts textured cardstock. And I'm using Barely Art glue today. And I have been using Barely Art for a while. I like it. I like the tips on their bottle like that come with it. I typically use art glitter glue in one of these, or line coat. You can see I've tried many different glues, and I do like art glitter glue too. So that's how that one comes together. So I have that ready for a future use. And what I like is that they're not heavy. So let's say I'm going to move in about a year, and the nice thing about having paper frames, I can either remake them later, or I don't really care, but I just had to go through my mom's house before she moved to assisted living, and the frames were super heavy, so that's that. So the most time-consuming thing on this particular frame, if you're going to use these layers, to me are the putting the foam tape. So I'm going to show you how I did this for the larger ones. And that's the reason for my first one, because I wanted to make sure as I put them down that they were fairly level. I used Arteza or something. I had this huge roll of this, and I was using this because honestly I like Scotch foam tape better. But I don't like to waste anything, so I'm trying to get through this. So it came in handy with this, and you can kind of see how I did it. That one's not, that's overlapping. We don't want that to come up. Did this the other day. It just took a while. Well, during this video, I'm probably going to have to speed it up. I'm not going to have you show me how to take all the backings off. But I basically did this up to there. So for these, I'm going to use a thinner. I got these other ones. Let's see. I'm making sure that I'm on the non-textured side. I got these other strips on Amazon. So they're super thin. So I can take one off, or multiple ones off, to make a thickness. And this is really thin when you get to the blue and the purple. Like I'll do 2 on this one. So I have a bunch of things like this. So this is one I'm finishing off. But I'll just go, as they get smaller, you don't need span. Oh, I need to use my scissors I have a pair of scissors I only use for sticky things or adhesives, and this is it. Suggest you have one of those. So I think I'll just go like this. Put this on either side, 2 and I could just do it right in the middle. I didn't like it when I did my first one. I didn't like it that I could really see. You can see it from the side if you really look in, but I prefer it to be in a little bit. So I'm just going to go ahead and put little pieces here, and then the same thing on this one. So I'm not going to bore you by going through this. Let me just put one on this one. So you can see I'll just use one strip. And I'll put a link to this particular adhesive. I'm sure there's others on Amazon, but I got it off Amazon, and I got it primarily to, I thought about doing frames like this, but I know everybody, the hot thing is, you know, all the 3D, they call them 3D designs, which I think they're three-dimensional, but they're layered designs. I've never really made one because they were so many people are doing them, so I stick to, you know, what I want to do, which is, you know, there's so many people that are good at that. I'll let them have it. Sometimes you have to know your strengths. So anyways, we'll go ahead and finish this, but you can see how it's perfect thickness, or I can combine them for this one. So I'll just continue putting those on too before we layer them. So let me go ahead and do that, and then we'll go ahead and layer them first, because that is probably the most time-consuming portion of it, in my opinion. So here's a little packet of all those little adhesive strips. So I finished putting them on the back, so to give you an indication. When they get smaller, they kind of support themselves, but what you could do, I'd put whatever you want. I would put, if you want to save some foam tape, I mean, it's up to you. I was just putting enough so it feels like it just kind of lifts solid, like equally all the way around. So that's the reason. So I'm going to put them together. I don't have any on the back of this. I may pop it up, but that's up to you. I think I'm just going to put it flat and glue it in. But you could always put, this, I got to put the correct side up. Make sure all the texture side's up. You could always put it on the very back too. The frame is thick enough to hold it for the default frame. Remember, the thinner frame is in the extra stuff folder. So I'm just gonna start with one, but basically what we're gonna do is take all the tape off, and then you're gonna want to try to line them up best you can. So I have a wiggle room in that, and the frames, so it is, the frame opening is larger just in case you have some issues getting it in. But you should be able to line it up at the bottom. So let me go ahead and take these off, and I will show you. But the reason I didn't want you to have to live through this is because of this. And I'm using this little, I got this at our dollar store, Dollar Tree in the US. For those that have Dollar Tree, it makes it easier for me to get off because I have no nails, because I have a bad habit of chewing them. Try not to, but I've always had the problem. So anyways, so I'm gonna go ahead and take these all off, and I'll show you. I'm gonna do a couple of them. I'll take them all off, get this ready, so I can show you how I can layer them. Okay, so I've gotten the backings off on these. I mean, I could do them all at once, but don't have a huge table. Go ahead and move that a little bit. So just when you put them down, you can stand up and do it. It might be easier. I'm going to stand up. You can't see them standing up, but I'm just going to line it up at the bottom edge here. Make sure it's lined up on the left and right, and place it down. So it could be off just a little bit. That's okay. So I'm going to continue doing that for the rest of them. So just kind of eyeballing it as I get it on there. I'm lining it up. Well, I'm off on there on the right a little bit. So So if I wanted to, I could lift it up again. I'm not that concerned. It's okay if I see a little bit of the orange. So now I have to take the backings off these, and then we can go ahead and put the other 3 layers on. So if you do like projects like this, or you like this video, I always ask if you could give me a thumbs up or like on the video, and or subscribe to our channel if you haven't already done so. And if you hit that little bell to the right, you'll be notified when we have new videos, content. A little bit slow this year, but this is 2023. But we continue to put something here and there off. Life, it just kind of slows down a little bit. So let me continue to get these off, and then we'll put these final 3 on and then move on to the frame. So I want to stop for a minute to explain something to you. If you get something kind of crooked, I don't know if you've ever used undo before. I just misplaced my undo. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. So this comes in handy when you're dealing with adhesive items. Was kind of cool. So if you're very sensitive, it's a petroleum that product, but it's great what it does. So this one's kind of a little crooked. So I'm almost have them all undone, and I'm having to keep them separated so they don't stick to each other. But these are super easy, by the way, to get the backings off. That was the last one. But for this one, I don't have the backing off or anything. You see it's a little crooked and I didn't like it. This undo is great, because what it does is it kind of comes out and it'll loosen up the adhesive and not discolor. You might want to test it on your paper, but typically does not discolor paper. So it lets me pull it up. It's like one of my favorite things of all time, but when you're dealing with liquid glue, it doesn't work with that, but just adhesive like that. So undo. So I'm going to let it dry. So you see how it's wet? We have to wait until it dries in order for it to be sticky again. So this will re-sticky even though it has some on it. But now I can get it on straight. So see how quickly, move it up here. See how quickly it dried? Right there. So I'm just going to go ahead and line this up a little bit better in the middle, because that's why I took it off towards the outside. I'd rather on the outside edge than I do it towards the middle, because you can't see it as much on the outside edge. So that's a little trick. So I'm going to go ahead and continue lining these. So just be really careful. Again, standing up is going to help. And if you do take them apart like I did, just make sure they're not over each other, else they'll stick. But I like to start at the bottom edge. Take your time. See if you can get it lined up on the right and left. You usually can kind of pull it up depending on the adhesive you have. Oops. So I tried to get it lined up so it wouldn't bow too much there, but I mean, that's up to, it's just the way you place everything. And then let me get the blue. Make sure I have all the adhesive off. So when they get smaller, they get a little harder to layer. So I'm gonna get them at the bottom first, and then see if I can hold it here as I line it up on the top. Kind of lining it up with my fingers as I go down. That one lifted up a little bit, so I had some that I had already. I'm going to add a little liquid glue to that. That's not the one I pulled up. It's one that was on a, it just wasn't very sticky. This is the hardest one to get on, to get it lined up. So it takes patience. I don't like to push it down too much. I just want the effect. So now if I go, I'm going to get the other one here. So here's the thinner one. So this is the thinner one. And you can see you need the thicker one because it goes way up here. So this is the extra one that's for thinner if you're going to do less layers. And if you're going to use less layers like this, that's why I demonstrated this. Always make sure you use this middle one right here, because that goes around the picture. Otherwise you have to modify it a bit more to create the matting around the picture. But you can see that it kind of sits in there, but I wanted some room in there. So you just want to center it once you get it in place. So we'll put that aside and we'll go ahead and move on to the frame. So here are the edges of the frame, and the back piece you want to it is right here. So you'll see these little cutouts. So that's so you can frame the picture, and then these are to hold the picture in place if you want to temporarily hold it in. And actually it helps to, even if you want to glue it on, it'll hold it in right there, or you can just glue it using those guides. So this is 4x6, and when we put the frame together you can either orientate the easel to have it go landscape mode, or landscape, or portrait. So that's your choice. So we have these pieces. So I already folded a couple, but these are the smaller ones, or the smaller sides and larger ones. So I say to go ahead and do this. I'm gonna go like this. Get a really good edge on it, and if you need to, use something like a bone folder, because it's going to help you. And then, so I just use the table. So now we have this piece. Make sure you have the one that has the little cutout edges like this and the little circular. This is the back piece. It has some cutouts on it to help you place the easel if you use that. You could always cut a hole to hang it to. So we're going to take these, we're just going to glue them wherever the tab with the circle cut out there, we're going to glue to the back. So it doesn't really matter whether you have the texture side or not up. It's up to you, because you shouldn't be able to see it no matter what. So I'm just going to put the texture side up. Then we're just going to go ahead and add glue along this whole tab. Try to get as close to the edge as possible on the edges here. So this gets a little tricky, but it's not horrible. But the reason we pre-fold it is so it's going to help us line this up. So I'm going to line this edge up. So I'm lining this up in the inside fold here. And I'm just kind of tapping it in before it dries. Make sure I get a good edge. So we'll do that on all four sides, and you can do them all at once. The key is once we get all these on, we have to do the sides first. The long sides, I should say, and then the short sides. So tried several ways of putting this together, because it's fairly large, but it'll have presence when I place it up on my table. So I know it's a little bit large for most, but I'm going to use it for a couple pieces. This really came out of the want to have a couple pictures around the house and not wanting to go buy frames that are heavy and I thought, well, this will make some to my taste. So that's where this went. So just try to line this up as best you can. So I just get lined up, push that edge into the fold, and then really get some pressure. So we'll get this last one on and we'll start gluing the frame together. So there's so many different ways you can do frame. I like this way. There was a couple I tried. I have a couple other ones that designed at the same time. So smaller ones if you prefer smaller. I just wanted the layered rainbow without doing like a print and cut. I wanted to get that feel. And I like the 3 layers too, the blue that I showed earlier. We all have a ton of pictures on our phones, and you know, I know I'm guilty of it, but I see it on my phone, but I'd like a couple in my house. So now this is going to fold under like this. So we want to do the long sides first. So we're going to fold it under like that and glue it. So the way that I found works, and you can kind of see where it ends. Do you see where it goes to? I mean, you could mark it if you wanted to, but I'm not going to mark it. I'll just go like this. It's just easier for me to do this. I was going to put a little mark for everybody, but I know it kind of starts there and there. So I'm not going to go beyond that. I'm going to put a little glue in here. What a bad time for my glue bottle to jam. So I'm just getting a pin. All my pins have, I'm just going to put a pin in this. They all are so soft that they just kind of, they look funny now. Oops, I went a little bit outside. And I'm just going to add a little glue up there, just towards the fold. And this is me. I don't like putting it on here because then it gets all over my hands. So I'm going to go ahead and, when I'm folding it over, let me just go this way. I just kind of push it in. So I'm pushing it in. So pushing it in right there and holding it. Now I'm going to get my handy dandy wooden chopstick. Apply pressure on both sides to that tab. And then the same on the other side. So it's just a matter of knowing how far it goes in. Like I said, you could go ahead and put a little mark in there if you wanted to. So you got a little pencil. I had a pencil. I lost my pencil. Here we go. You could do this and just, I don't want to see it, so that just tells me where I can put the glue. Oops. If for some reason a little bit got on where you could see it, it wouldn't be a big deal. So this time I am not going to add any. Well, I will. I like just adding a little bit up here because it gives it the final stick. Pushing it in. So the biggest thing I've found by doing this several times is pushing this tab in. And then once you get it in place, I'm getting a little pressure. So you could use any utensil. I find that wooden chopsticks are great. because they're thin, they get into places my fingers can't get into. And basically they come with my meals anyway, so if I go and get Chinese, I haven't gotten Chinese for a while, or Japanese, but I have a bunch from years back. Just nobody needed to throw them away. So we'll do the same on the sides, but the difference is for here, let me go ahead and move that where you can see me. When I move like this, kind of need to push it in. So we want it to line up here. Also push that in like we did the sides, and it'll line up here. So I'll show you what I did, or what I recommend. So it's the same thickness. So after a while you kind of get to where you know where you need to put glue. But if you need to put little marks, that's up to you. The other place I want to put it is right here. So right here where that first angle is, it's gonna glue it to this. So if you can see it on this side too, this little section, just doing a triangle, you can go a little further, about that's where it's gonna hit it. And I'm gonna go like that, fold it under. So I'm kind of pushing it in. And at the same time, I'm going to push it in on the left and on the right. And I'm going to apply pressure, make sure it's all the way in. And now it's like you need to use your, just going to hold my fingers there lightly. We don't want indentations, but I want it to glue. At the same time, it should be setting on the other side, because we can't reach in this time. But if you can push them together, make sure the corners come together, and then that glue that we put on this angled piece will allow it to glue on top. And if it doesn't, this is what it kind of looks like if you didn't do that. So I have this one, and you can see how it's split. So this has a little bit of a gap, but not a whole lot. But you can see on top, if it comes apart like that, let me show you. Like that. If you didn't glue it, it'd be like that, which would be okay still, but I find I like this cleaner, so I take the time. So again, on the other side, I'll do this part first. I believe it's a 1/2 inch. It might be only 40 inches, but I think it's a 1/2 inch. Then we're going to go ahead and take this little triangle piece right here. No, my hand's in the way here. Right there. It doesn't matter if glue gets on the inside, you won't see it anyways. And then we'll go ahead. I think it's easier for me just to go this way. Just parallel to me. Push it in. And before everything dries, I kind of push it in the side here. Making sure it's together at the bottom there. And then hold, but also making sure this is in. So I'm just kind of pushing that in lightly and then holding where the wet glue is right there. So that'll complete the actual frame portion. So it's a little bit of patience. Let me see if I have a couple pictures here. So here's one of the pictures I want to use. And I'll probably use this for it. So you could, at this point, if you had pictures and you wanted them, they just go like this, and before you put the backing on, I would recommend putting it in. You can get it in with a little pick, or just line it up and glue it in place. I don't plan to replace this picture, so let me give you a better picture of it. It's my dog that just passed away. That's Stumpy. And did a little Photoshop to it, but not a whole lot. One of her better pictures. But I want this one to be up like this, I'm going to put it up like that. So it's going to be in a portrait mode. So you would put it like that and then add this. So there, we still have to put the backing on, but I'm just going to go ahead and glue it in because I know I'm going to use this particular one. So I did this on photo paper. I'll provide a blank. Just look for the blank. If you look for the blank, you could use the blank to do that with your software. I just say it's just easier printing directly or having them printed from a photo service. A lot of people get those printed from photo service. I have glue on my hands. I'm trying not to get it on the front. So I printed this on my printer with photo paper. So I don't want to get it. I just want it to sit in place. So this will be hidden by the frame. So now, and you can see there's wiggle room in here. I'm just gonna glue it down. Or actually, I'm just gonna use adhesive. Let me do that rather than use all my glue. So I'm just gonna use score tape. So like I said, you could be portrait or landscape for that. It's up to you. So I'm doing this because it's super quick. It'll keep it in place. I don't need a whole lot of, I just don't want it to fall over or come out when it's displayed. Honestly, I'm just going to put it on the edges. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and stick it in. I'm going to go sideways so I can see if I can get it a little bit more centered. So I have a little space on all sides. And that's that. So that's in like that. But I want to be able to display it up. So you could, essentially put a hole, just you could put something to hang it if you wanted to, but we have this back piece. So this back piece, so my comment to you is, depending on the orientation of your picture is where you need to put this. So I need to have the easel down here. This is the bottom for this, so I need to face it this way. So if the picture, the bottom of the picture is, this should be on where the bottom is. So the same thing if you went this way, it would be, if this would be the bottom of the picture, this is where this has to be. And I will show you on an example. We'll do it on the, I'll show you on the blue one. So again, you could just add, maybe I'll just do adhesive on this one. So I need this, make sure again, this is at the bottom. And all this is doing is helping you place that easel. So if you put it the other way and you messed up, just kind of eyeball where the easel should be. So this is not one of those frames easy to change pictures, but you could figure out how to do it like I did on my other with the Velcro. The Velcro dots. Then once this is on, we take this, the easel. So I made it different color because although American Crafts cardstock, a thicker cardstock would work, if you're using a thinner cardstock, which I don't recommend anyways, but I used craft paper, Cricut craft paper for this one. So, and the score marks are dashed. That's just the way it is. I made it perforated by default. So it just cuts them. So we want to put it right here. We want to line it up. So see the little circle? We're going to line it up right here. if it's portrait, or here if it's a landscape picture. So we want to add glue to this. If you don't like the marks on this and you want to use your own option, in the extra stuff folder there's a blank. In the SVG file, in the zip file, there's a blank to just put on the back without these cut. So it's up to you. So I'm just lining it up. Doesn't have to be perfect. When I line it up, it should be a little bit. Once you get it kind of in place, that's just to help you center it. You see there's just a little gap at the bottom. I'm just going to rub this lightly to get it in place, because we want this to set well. It's going to hold up the photo. So I didn't get to put enough glue up here. It's okay, it won't be seen, but I can always add some more glue to get it on. So now just fold it up, and then you can kind of see it from above, but no, you can't see it from the front, but it does hold it up. You can see kind of the angle. I'm going to go right above it, so it holds it in place. So that's that way. If you were going to do it the other way, let me go ahead and modify this. So I took another picture. It's a different dog, and I just made sure it was centered within those little cut lines. And I did this. So remember I said the back has to be on a certain way, so it has to be down here. So I just reused a cut, but right here. So you would go ahead, and I'm not going to add it, but I'm going to show you. So you would do the same thing. So it would be centered right here. Right there. So we'll go ahead and add it. It doesn't matter whether it's the same color or not. It's just a functional piece. Let me go ahead and add it so we can, I'm going to change the pictures anyways in there, but I wanted to show you. I haven't glued it in yet. Oops. Get some good coverage on this when you put it on, because you want it to hold. But if you want to hang it, you could figure out a way to hang it. Can't do them all, unfortunately. It just, the time it takes to do the angles on this to make sure this holds it up and all the fun stuff. I try to add as much as I can to a file. So I'm just lining it up the best I can. So it's just a little bit, it just helps you center it. And you want to be really light with it because you don't want to squish it down. So I'm going to show you from the top, since it's kind of hard to see from the top, the way I have my camera. It goes like that. So you could always make it a little bit like that. And you can see it holds it up like that. So I know you can't really see the front of it, but you can see the function of it. So from this side, it should be, the reason why we want to go down as far as you want to is because it'll hold up. There's like a certain way it's angled, and it'll hold it up better. It's just not, it's really light when it comes to that. So it's a nice little gift piece too, because you could put a picture in and give it to somebody as a gift. And I was thinking about using one for Christmas too. So and here's the other one. If you want to know how this looks, I know it's not, I would think that a portrait picture, but it kind of looks fun that way too. For that alternate, remember this is in the extra stuff folder. So the things in the extra stuff folder are the blanks for this. If you want to, I mean, I would just say print 4x6 or get it printed. This extra panel, for whatever reason, if you want to use that. I just did it, and why waste it? And then this thinner, the thinner one, the one that's not as deep. So, and this is good for like a 3 panel. So that's it. Here are the two. Here's the final version. So I hope you enjoyed this project, and I thank you so much for watching.